Okay, Boker Tov. Today's daf is Memtet. We're going to pick up from the bottom of Memchet Bet, where it says Lema Kitanoi, Hamal Ves Chavero, 7 lines from the bottom with the asterisk. So let me just sort of recap where we're up to. We just finished the whole major debate of Rabbi Yomi Reish Lakish, whether biblically, we know that as a practical matter, Mashiach is the act of kinyan on metaltalin, on chattel, but there's a debate what the biblical issue is. Rabbi Reish Lakish says that is the biblical issue, way it's defined. But Rabbi Yochanan says, no, biblically it goes by kesef, by money. The rabbis instituted Mashiach because they wanted the owner of the object to have possession of the object in case anything went wrong with the object. You shouldn't have that responsibility or whatever. It shouldn't be something that I could lose my object because I haven't taken possession of it yet and you weren't watching it well. So the object is only transferred when it's taken possession of. So that's why they overrode the biblical institution of kesef. There's an interesting debate whether we rule like with Yochanan or Reish Lakish. It's not clear how we rule. Long the Tosafos discusses that. There's also a very interesting debate, and this I don't know if this was touched on, but it certainly was a running theme of the last few dapim about how to conceptualize Rabbi Yochanan. When Rabbi Yochanan says that the rabbis came and instituted Mashiach as opposed to the biblical kesef, was he saying that the biblical kesef does nothing and it no longer is effective at all, and the only thing that affects the transfer is the Mashiach? Or is he saying that the biblical kesef actually works, but you have a right then to choose to reverse it, and you have the ability to sort of retract until the Mashiach is done. But if you gave the money, it works until you've reversed it. It still works biblically. So we saw that possibility emerge from the position in the Mishnah, I think it was Rabbi Shimon, that says that only the person with the money can retract. The person who has not yet taken the object, the purchaser who has not yet taken the object, cannot retract. So that makes it clear that the actual giving of the money makes the sale valid, but there's a right to negate it and to retract it. And according to Rabbi Shimon, that right is only on one side. If we rule that both sides can retract, the question is, which is what we do, the question is left open. Is it a right to retract, or is it that the sale never was binding? That also plays out in terms of the whole issue of the mishapara. The Gemara says that when one side retracts, they get a mishapara. If you just promise to go through with a sale and you to do a sale and you change your mind, then that was the Gemara's discussion of whether whether your verbal agreement, right? Yeah, I mean that's a question in English, like secular law as well, verbal contract, whether your verbal agreement, is there any moral problem? There's certainly not a halachic problem. Is there even any moral problem about backing out? And the Gemara maybe made distinctions, like it's one thing to back out because of changed circumstances, right? It's another thing to back out because you've just changed your mind, and especially if the other person is relying on you. Okay, so but even if you do back out of those things in a way that's inappropriate, right? The Jewish people should not like do any perversion, and nevertheless, but you don't get a mishapara. The mishapara, that curse or that promise that God will pay you back, is only if you've paid money and then back out, or one side backs out after money is paid. So why is that? Is that the paying of money makes it more like you're concretizing your commitment and people are more relying on you, and therefore it's like worse morally to back out? Or a different way to look at it, a legal different way to look at it, is when you pay the money, actually the sale is binding, biblically speaking, according to Rabbi Yochanan. And when you back out, you've actually reversed a sale that was binding. So it's not like it was never binding. It was binding. You just had the right to reverse it. So that is a very important conceptual question, according to Rabbi Yochanan, when we say the right, the money does it. Is it that what the rabbis completely erase that? Or is it that, no, that still works, but you can just override?
And still not get a mishvara for that.
No, you get a mishvara once money changes hands. No, you don't get the mishvara money.
Get the money back.
Yeah, you get the money back, but you reversed the deal. Okay, so that is the question. Well, that's the very critical question within Rabbi Yochanan. Now, I should say, Rashi even says a possible nafkamina would be, let's say I go ahead and I give Michael money, and I don't do Mashiach for Michael's, I don't know, apple or something, and then I don't take the apple, but I go to this woman who I want to marry, and I say, Harayat Mekudeshesli with this apple. And she picks it up. Like I never pick it up. Okay. Anyway, and I never pick it up. So I've never done a kinyan on it, but I did pay money for it. Is she married? And Rashi basically says that according to one way of understanding Rabbi Yochanan, she is still married. As long as we haven't reversed it, that kinyan of giving you the money is binding. So that's a very, very important lemasa type of halachic question of how to conceptualize the giving of the money according to Rabbi Yochanan. Now that translates into the discussion that the Gemara just had that we're going to now continue with, which is the discussion about whether when you give a partial payment, is it kone keneged kulo or kone kenegdo? Now that could be the simple case is a case of land, which is kona with money. So if I go ahead and I buy something for $1 million, 1,000 acres, and I give, the Gemara says half of it, 500,000. Let's say I give 1,000. Let's say I give $100. Now, and do I purchase the entire land or only $100 worth of it? And there the Gemara says that by karka it seems that you purchase all of it. Okay, since karka fundamentally works by kesef, then we basically look at it as though I now owe you the rest. It's a mortgage, essentially. I've given you this as the initial act of payment, and it's as if I've given you all the rest of the money and borrowed it back and have it as a loan, but it's if I've already paid you for the whole thing. That's actually what you do with a mortgage. The bank pays the person and you owe the bank. So here it's as if I paid you and now I owe you the rest of the money, but it's like I've paid in full. So that's basically what we say by karka. The question becomes, what do we say by metaltalin? And now the only relevance for this question by metaltalin is, do I get a mishapara? Okay, I agree to sell you 100 bushels of apples for $1 a bushel. You give me $5, and now you want to back out. So if you back out on and not take any bushels and get your $5 back, then you get a mishapara because at least $5 worth of apples you bought. But let's say you say, you know what, fine, I'll take the first 5 bushels, but I don't want to do the other 95. Do you get a mishapara? Is it like you've paid money on the rest, and now by backing out, you're going to get a mishapara on the rest? So that's the question of kinegdo or kineged kulo. And here again, the language of the Gemara is very indicative, because the language of the Gemara is kinegdo hu koneh or kineged kulo hu koneh, right? So it sounds like even when you're dealing with metaltalin and we're dealing with money, that the money actually affects the kinyan. And this would work very beautifully according to Rabbi Yochanan, that biblically the money is what does it. So you've actually purchased the object, but you have a right to retract. And therefore, we want to know when you pay part of it, have you purchased just that part or have you purchased the whole thing? Okay, but that is the question that we ask in buying the metaltalin when you do a partial payment and you want to is there going to be a mishapara if you retract not from the amount you paid for, but from the remainder of the amount? And that's the debate. Rav and Rabbi Yochanan. Rav says that is kinegdo, and Rabbi Yochanan says it is kineged kulo. Some questions, yes, Michael.
Yeah. So I understand it's easier in the case of bushels and apples. I can give you 5 bushels. Let's say you're buying my cow.
Yeah. So that's a very good question.
What do you do?
Yeah, so it's a good question. I don't know. You're right, and maybe there we would say it clearly is kineged kulo. That's certainly more reason to say if it's an indivisible unit, it's kineged kulo. But yes, that's the right question to ask. Yes.
Yeah, this curse is because you went back on your word, right?
Or because you retracted a binding sale, right?
So
depending on how you conceptualize
what
it.
if you just verbally said, "I'm buying this"?
So that's what we said. That's what I said before. I don't know. Maybe I was saying it too fast. But that if you did not actually pay the money, you just verbally committed to do it, and you back out, you do not get a mishapara. You're told that that's not the right thing to do. Okay, and depending on that's a question of how bad was it to do is something of a function about whether the circumstances changed or did you just arbitrarily change your mind? How much did the other side rely on your commitment to do it? Okay, but either way, you don't get a mishapara. Okay, it's not right to do that under certain circumstances, but you don't get a mishapara. Charlie, yes.
This would seem to have some implications for how we do the Mechira comments.
I can't process that right now. Yes, no.
This might be a really simple question. Would you say that underlying this entire sugya in a way is what do we mean conceptually by to give something to somebody? Right, Mashiach is like it requires a concrete, actual experience of the item itself.
Right.
How far can you abstract the concept legally of what it means that I've given you something and you haven't really actually held on to it yet? Right? In other words, I give you the money and now I've given it to you. But where's the thing? Like, that's really interesting.
Okay, I'm not sure. I hear what you're saying. I mean, to me, it's like it's one side of giving as opposed to the other side. We're not giving both directions. So it's a question of which side is the one that affects the change.
Yeah. One very good question on this. The Mishnah part, we didn't fully talk about this. Like, just let the debate in. Let's say,
Yeah, so that's
or
also
I
not
tell you
clear.
that,
You know,
just
the
her,
Gemara, right? I mean, the Gemara basically, it doesn't sound like anybody actually does the curse. But it is interesting that the Gemara has a question. Is it just we inform the person, you should know God is going to pay you back, or is that actually the Gemara says like we curse the person?
Right.
And then who's the we? Are we actually doing a curse? Or are we basically saying like you will be cursed? That curse exists. We the rabbis, when we instituted this idea of Misha Bara, means we're cursing anybody in the future who does this thing. It's also an interesting question, which was not fully explored, that the Gemara sometimes sort of speaks about. Have I agreed to accept the Misha Para? The question is like, if I'm saying that I'm basically going to like reverse it or not, maybe it hasn't, it came up before in the Gemara, maybe it's not actually reversed until I agree to accept the Misha Para. If I don't agree, then then my reversing is not binding yet, even if I say I'm backing out, whatever. Anyway, all right, let's move on. So now the Gemara says the following in the bottom of Mem Cherem with Bet. Okay, let's say the debate of Rav and Rabbi Yochanan, Kenegdo or Keneged Kulo, is a debate of Tanayim. Hamaves chaver al hamashkon. You lend money to your friend and you get a collateral. And then it became the Shemitah year. Plug, even though the mashkon is only worth half of the loan, Eina Mishame. Shemitah does not annul the loan. Divrei Rebbe. That's what Divrei Rebbe Misham Gamliel. That's what Misham Gamliel says. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi Omer. Rebbe says. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi says. Sure, if the collateral was equivalent to the loan, then it does not annul, because the reason Shemitah annuls, it says, well, you should not somehow like extract it from your friend, like oppress even your friend. So therefore, if you actually have the money by you, if you have the collateral by you, you don't have to extract it, then it is not relevant to the laws of Shemitah. So Shemitah is only that act of exertion, of exercising of power and extracting. And therefore, if it's already in your possession, it's not that act, and therefore Shemitah does not annul the loan. So Rebbe says that's only true if the mashkon is equivalent to the entire loan. If you love, and if not mishamed, it does. Now, which part of the loan are they debating? The part right when it's only half the loan. If it's, are they debating? So that's what I was going to say. My aim mishamed comes from you. And Shimon Gamliel says that Shemitah does not annul it. Which part of the loan is he referring to? If he means that it is does not annul the part that the value of the mashkon itself. Let's make it easier. Let's not make it 50-50. The loan was worth $1,000 and the mashkon was worth $200. Okay, so which part of the loan is so what are they debating? The 200 or the 800? All right. So Elaim is saying, oh, at least for the $200 of the mashkon you possess, that Shemitah does not annul. Would that mean to imply that according to Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, it would annul even the $200 of the loan? How can it annul the $200 of it? $200 you're fully in possession of. Everybody should agree it can't annul that. Ella, it seems, top of Mem Tet Amud Aleph, Mashkon did not get. I'm sorry, Mashkon did not get Lamale. Why are you holding on to the Mashkon? Clearly, the $200, the value of it is at least that you can collect $200 worth of a loan. So at least $200 of the loan is in your possession.
So the Shemitah should be more than the 200.
Well, but no. Everybody should agree the Shemitah should not be Mishame to $200 because that's already in your possession. Elalav. So if they're debating what it's Mishame, Shmamina, my ain't a Mishame to come from Leo. What does it mean? It's not Mishame. Ain't a Mishame Bekulo. It means that he's saying that as long as you have a partial possession of the loan, it's like you're possessing all of the loan, and none of the loan is annulled. When Rabbi Yehuda Nasi says it is annulled, lahach means that the part that you're not possessing, the 800, that it's annulled. The loan not be the mashkon, that you're not holding a mashkon. And this is the debate where Mem Tet Amud Aleph. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Savar. Keneged Kulahu Koneh. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says that you are purchasing opposite all of it. Now, of course, this is an analogy because this is not the same as when I give money in an exchange. But my holding of the mashkon somehow represents a holding of the whole loan. And since I'm holding the entire loan, therefore, Shemitah is not mishamet anything because I'm holding the entire loan. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi Savar Kenegdu Koneh, and Rabbi Yehuda Nasi says no. you're only holding the amount of the loan that you're holding. You're holding $200. So it's not Mishami to $200, but the rest it is Mishami. Now that's a very nice explanation of Rabbi Gamliel. When you're holding a mashkon, is it representative of holding the whole loan? But the only thing is that I don't exactly understand how it's the same question of when I pay you money. Is it like I've paid you for everything and I owe you the rest? Or is it like I've paid you for that portion, right? I mean, like you can sort of say different things in different cases. Like the mashkon could represent the whole loan, but when I'm paying you for something, I've only bought the amount that I've bought, Here, there's already money I've lent you, and you're giving me something, and what is that thing supposed to represent? It's a different type of a question, but it's analogous, okay? I mean, the Rishonim, I haven't seen the Rishonim really try to connect the dots, right? But you understand that it's not the same. One is a question about when I pay you partially, right? Or have I already bought the whole thing? And the other is a question when I've loaned you money and you give me a mashkon. I mean, clearly, I don't physically have possession of the entire loan. I only have possession of $200. It's more of a question of does it represent the entire loan, Anyway, but it's somewhat analogous, okay? So the Gemara says, let's say that's our debate.
So Shemitah will not be mishamet any loan if the borrower is holding a mashkon according to that?
Yes, correct.
So then there's no problem with Gordel Bifnei Lovi, right? All I have to do is make certain that the borrower has a mashkon.
Right. So that's a good point. I mean, you could ask why Hillel had to do it, but not everybody, gives collateral.
Right.
Somebody who's really poor and has nothing or whatever, that's primarily the people that this was meant to help.
So he will have no mashkon to give.
Right, but you raise a good point. According to Gamliel, you give a $1 mashkon, and everybody just gives a $1 mashkon,
Right,
and it solves the problem.
Problem.
That is true. Okay, so now the Gemara says like this. Let's see what the Gemara says. Okay, look, no, that's not necessarily the debate. My aim is to come from Gamliel. No, Reb Shimon Gamliel maybe just means that for that $200, it's not Meshamet, because that you are totally in possession of. You mean to say that if that's true, they're debating about whether the $200 is a no. The Rabbi would say even the $200 mashkon you're holding, even $200 of the loan is a no. But why are you holding the mashkon? Clearly, the holding of the mashkon is to be in possession of at least part of the loan. So if you're in possession of it, how could Shemitah be mishamek that $200? So the Gemara said, no, no, the mashkon, especially you could say this is true if the mashkon is less than the full value of the loan, right? As the Gemara said before, normally you have your collateral on something worth more than the loan. You want to make sure you're getting your money back. So if the mashkon is worth less than the loan, it says it's really just there as to remember. The fact that I'm holding on to your object means that I am constantly being reminded of the fact, hey, I'm not going to forget you owe me the money. Maybe I'm going to nudge you more for the money. Maybe I'll use it as a little bit of leverage to get you to give me the money. But it is not yet a possession of payment for the loan. Certainly if it is less than the value of the loan, then it really more is just purely symbolic, and it does not really sense of possessing the loan in any way. So according to this debate, they're debating what it means to hold on to a mashkon less than the value. Are you in possession of the value of the mashkon? So there's an answer to you, Rabbi Dov. According to that read, you have not solved the Prusbo problem, right? Because it prevents Shemitah, even according to Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, only prevents Shemitah from operating on the amount you're in possession.
So according to that interpretation, this mashkon in a way become a pikadon, like I'm a shomer.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting question in general about mashkon, what your level of liability is to it. But yes,
I'm sorry, but according to the first way, you can also say that. You can say Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says it's still not mishamek the whole at all, any part of the loan, even though it's not worth.
Yeah, but we don't want to say that because we want to move it out of the debate of Kenegdo and Keneged Kulo. I mean, it's true. You could have them go to opposite extremes. That's true. But then to some degree, at least Rabbi Shimon Gamliel would still be saying Keneged Kulo, and we want to move it out of that discussion.
Okay. That is a valid way of explaining.
Yeah.
The Gemara chose not to.
Correct. Okay, now we're going to talk about, so we still don't know. It's a debate of now of Rav and Rabbi Yochanan. Is it Kenegdo or Keneged Kulo? Let's take a look. Rav Kahana Yavule Zuzei Akitna. Rav Kahana, they gave him money for flax. Okay, he was a flax seller. What I love about these stories is you get to see how many professions the rabbis were involved in.
Yeah, one, flax.
No, come on. You have all these good stories.
Flax.
Anyway,
Didn't anyone do anything else?
fine. Rav, maybe it was. Anyway, Rav Kahana, they gave him money for flax. L'sof iyaka kitna. Then the price of flax went up, so he wanted to back out. Okay.
And I'm always giving you flax on this. I know. I'm sorry.
He wanted to back out. Also, L'kamid Rav. Now he knew who to ask the shaila for because Rav, remember, says kenegdo. So they didn't give him the full value. If they gave him the full value and he would have backed out, he would have gotten a mishapara. They only paid him a down payment. So he was not going to back out on the amount they paid him for. He did not want a mishapara. But he wanted to back out on the remainder of it. Okay, so he asked Rav. Rav is the one who says Kenegdo, not Keneged
So wait,
Kulo.
where do you see
Okay.
the need of
You don't. It's not a mashka. We're out of mashka.
Oh.
They paid him partially for the flax. Okay. Also, kami to Rav. Amalei b'may denaki tzuze. The amount that you have, money that you've taken, corresponding to that amount, havlu, give him the flax. The idach, the remainder of it, tvarim. It's only a verbal commitment. The money was not yet considered. It wasn't considered yet paid for the remainder. The remainder is a verbal commitment. And dvarim is not a concern of backing of violating your word, of violating trust, a violation of trust. And therefore, if it's not, I'm sorry, when I was giving my overview, I anticipated this tomorrow. I got lost what we had covered and what we hadn't covered. Okay, so anyway, so now you'll see it. In retroactive, it all makes sense. But anyway, I gave you a preview of what we're about to see. So here is a debate about whether, when it is not money paid, right? Money paid, you get the mishapara, either because it's just a serious commitment that you're retracting, or because, as we said before, maybe even was a binding agreement. Maybe it even was a binding sale that you're now reversing. So you get a mishapara with money. But if there's a verbal commitment without money and you back out, how bad is it? How much is it considered like I broke a verbal? I mean, legally I'm allowed to, but is it ethically bad? I mean, in normal secular law, I think sometimes you can actually be sued for violation of a verbal contract. But here, you cannot be sued. There's no legal consequence, but is it ethically wrong to break a verbal commitment and a verbal trust? And partly it might have to do with, well, what's your motivation? Like if it's part of business, the price went up or whatever, and it's more understandable. If I just arbitrarily change my mind, maybe not. We'll see about that. So Rav says, right, okay, so Rav says, right? Okay, fine. So Rav is saying that 2 points. Number one is that the money only works opposite the amount that, the amount that it's like it was paid for was only opposite the amount of money received. It's kenegdo, it's not keneged kulo. So therefore there's no mishapara on the rest. And not only is there no mishapara on the rest, it's not even morally wrong to back out on the rest. It's only a verbal commitment. That's part of business. The prices change. You can back out. That's understood that that's part of doing business. Okay. Well, let's take a look. Okay. So if you want to have possession of it all, pay for it all.
But
What?
the other person is doing business also at the same time.
And
According to
everybody
what you
understands.
did.
So the point is,
he's going to have the bottom taken out that way.
once everybody understands the rules, then it's just knowing how to play by the rules, right? So if you understand that if you haven't paid for it yet, I can back out for the mark not paid for, then you have to anticipate that, and you have to do proper things, right? You have to borrow the money and pay me for it if you don't want me to back out. Right, so as long as everybody knows the rules, I do not see a problem here. Okay, and what? Well, that's a good point. So then, a down payment according to that would only have maybe some type of make you feel to do the right thing. But here, according to Rav, it wasn't even a sense of doing the right thing. You're right. So a down payment actually, if you say kenegdo, when you say basically means down payment is nothing. Down payment is just partial payment for that part. You're right. Okay, so let's take a look. Okay, so that was Rav's position. Okay, Rav said, it only is opposite the amount you did, and the rest is a purely verbal commitment. And I'll repeat it. And a purely verbal commitment. A purely verbal commitment. Not only are you not legally bound, and not only is there no mishapara, there is nothing morally incorrect of backing out. Okay, we're going to see where the Gemara goes. Okay, I see that everybody is very exercised about this. We'll see where the Gemara goes with this. It's not a violation of trust. The itmar was discussed. What if it's just a verbal commitment? So it's a very interesting, the parallel of Rav and Rabbi Yochanan. Rav wants to give the buyer as much latitude as possible, right? So he says, it's only kenegdo, not keneged kulo, or the seller, I guess, has much latitude. Yeah, the seller is much latitude. It's only kenegdo, not keneged kulo. And B, by going back on a verbal commitment, it's not a violation of trust. Rabbi Yochanan, no, if you say you're going to do something and you back out, it is a violation of trust, and it is morally wrong.
Right? Meaning, that's seller or buyer, but I can back out as a buyer too.
Yeah. It could be both ways. It could be both ways. Rabbi Yehuda says, what is meant by the verse? You should have a just measure, right? In terms of the, your weights and measures should be just. So, Haya. It says Efa tzedek, hin tzedek yaloch. So Efa is a bigger measure than a hin. So, if it says your Efa should be just, certainly your hin should be just. I guess it's a kavachomer, right? If you can't be a little off on your large measures, certainly you shouldn't be a little off on your small measures, okay? Because obviously it's exponential. Ella lomer lucha. So why does it have to say that your hin should be just? To tell you, lomer she hin shel tzedek, the lav shel tzedek. Your yes should be a yes, and your no should be a no. When you say yes, it's a great line. Yeah. When you say yes, then you have to live up to that commitment. And if you say no, you have to stand by that. Like by parenting, you say if you do that again, you're not going to go out, to be with your friends. Oh, all right, fine. Go be with them. Whatever. You completely undermine your authority if you don't, if you don't keep by what you say you're going to do. Okay. So anyway, all right. So so therefore, he says that you have an obligation. Some Rishonim even articulate this as they believe that he's saying it's still right, and I'm not smachta. You have an obligation to keep by your commitments. By the way, that is different than the question about white lies, as both deceptive lies. We saw an earlier Gemara, you might remember, about things that you're allowed to, right? Remember in Bava Metzia, Talmud Chacham only sort of fudges the truth in 3 areas, okay? So that's not the same as Hin Tzedek. Hin Tzedek is not saying you're not, everything that comes out of your mouth has to be 100% true. You're not allowed to sometimes sort of make white lies for the greater good. This is sort of saying that if you promise to do something or say you're not going to do something, your promise, your commitment, you have to stand behind that, okay? Amar Abaye, no. So doesn't that prove against Rav that you can't back out of a verbal commitment? So Rabbi says no. That means you should not be duplicitous. That means that you should not say one thing and not be sincere about it when you're saying it. To say you're going to do it and not plan to do it. Okay, but if you're sincere when you say it, but you change your mind later, well, people change their mind. Okay, and therefore you are not. There's not a problem if you change your mind to go back on what you said you were going to do, which is it's troubling, right? That you don't even have some sense here of some moral responsibility to do it. Okay, let's keep on going. See where the Gemara goes with this. Meisvei, I'll ask on this. Shimon Omer, Ava Bish Amru Talis Kone Dinar Zahav. Even though they said when you take possession of the talis, you owe the gold dinar. Vein Dinar Zahav Kone Talis. But if you take the dinar, you don't. The other side doesn't own the talis yet. Mikol Makom Kach Halacha. It's true that is the halacha as a legal point. But they said, okay, the one who pays back whatever, he in the end will, punish the one who does not stand behind his word. Now, why is that a question? Because that's with paying money. So that doesn't prove dvarim. That's dvarim with money. So Rashi says the proof is from the end of the Breita. You remember the end of the Breita said that, when no money changes hands, you don't get a mishapara. But the phrase was, what was the phrase before? It said when no money changes hands, it said "Hanosei v'nosei b'dvarim lo kana v'achozer bo ein ruach hachamim nocheh." If it's a verbal commitment, there's no sense that the transaction is binding. But if you retract it, the sages are disapproving of you. Remember that from yesterday, okay? That was the end of the Breita. That's the part I should be quoting here. So look, that Breita says that if you retract a verbal commitment, the sages are disapproving. So clearly there is something wrong of retracting a verbal commitment. That backs Rabbi Yochanan. Dvarim yesh behem mishum chosrei amana. So what would Rav say about this? So the Gemara says, Tanai, fine, it's a debate of Tanaim. Nah, Ma'aseh Rabbi Yochanan ben Metzia. There's a story with Rabbi Yochanan ben Metzia. This is not Rabbi Yochanan. This is a Tana. Shamar libno, and this is a Mishnah coming up later on. He said to his son, "Save v'schor lanu poalim. Go hire for us some workers today." Halachu pasuk lemizonot. He said, "Fine, I'll pay you, $100 for the day plus lunch." Okay. When he came to the father, Amalo, his father said, "B'ni, when you promise them a meal, oh my God, it's always the what is it, the salary and the benefits. The benefits are going to break the bank. Okay, it's not just the salary. When you promise them, you promise them a meal, even were you to make to them like the feast of Shlomo HaMelech when he was at his greatest height. You would not have satisfactorily fulfilled your obligation to feed them. They are descendants of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. I don't know how that means that they're supposed to get huge feasts, but anyway, okay, they're sons of kings. So anyway, so therefore you cannot promise them a meal because we will not satisfy our obligation to them if you just do it generically. Before they begin the work, go say to them, no. When I said a meal, before you start work, I want to be clear, all I'm obligated to do is feed you bread and some a porridge or whatever. Okay? So anyway, what's relevant for us is that he was able to change the terms of the deal before they began, before it became binding. So you see, that was not a problem of changing the terms of the
maybe
agreement.
Explaining the terms.
Right. Obviously, it's a little bit different. If you say that there's a problem of backing out of verbal commitments, so how did he say go change the agreement? So the Gemara says no. No, there anyway, the workers had not totally, relied upon that commitment. My time, what's the reason? They know that the son is just relying on the father. He's just doing the father's bidding. It's really the father who's contracting with them. So they understood. They understood that that it was not that it was somewhat pending the father's agreement. Says the Gemara, even if they began the malacha, it's still pending the father's agreement, so it would not have been binding. So the Gemara says no. If they're starting their work, then it means that they're at the assumption that that it's now binding, that the father is behind it. They said, at this stage, he must have told the father, and since we didn't hear any revision, it must be the father's okay. Okay, now the important principle for us, though, is that even according to Rabbi Yochanan, and this is going to come up, that's only if the other side to some degree relies on it. Now, what does it mean, relies on it? Does it mean they forego other opportunities? Does it just mean they're really hoping for it? So what's the measure of rely? But certainly, if I'm a guy that everybody knows, I just say, I make promises that I don't keep. It's somewhat ironic, But if everybody knows I just talk a lot and never do it, then that's not chusrei amana, because nobody ever trusts me to begin with and relies upon it to agree with. Or if there's somehow an assumption, an understanding that, that things might change and I might not be able to go up with, so it limits Rabbi Yochanan, but that makes Rav's position even more radical. That Rav is then saying that even when the other side is relying on it, it's not a problem. There's no even moral obligation to keep up to a verbal commitment. Yes.
You're framing it, which I really appreciate, in terms of the technical, legally binding as opposed to a moral imperative.
Right.
It might also be that the nature of the assumptions that you can rely on are totally situated in a given context, in a given industry.
Correct.
Right?
Right.
Totally, the labor law issues here are, this is how we do it here.
Right.
In this town, everyone knows that.
Correct. So that is what the Gemara has now limited it to say. The debate is about situations where the other side is relying on it. Right. Okay, so that's but that means that Rabbi Yochanan, it means that even Rabbi Yochanan understands sometimes it's okay to back out, but what it means is that Rav, who says it's never a problem, is even in the cases where you really would want it to be a problem. So let's keep on reading. So the Gemara says like this: Umi Amar Rabbi Yochanan Hachi. Did Rabbi Yochanan really say this? That if the other side is not I forget whether this is the limit of it. Okay. And let's take a look. Did Rabbi Yochanan really say this? What we said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, right? If you say to your friend, I'm going to give you a gift, so you're able to go retract your agreement. So the Gemara says, of course you're able to. You're able to do a lot of things. Okay. when my wife edits my writing, she always changes every time I say can to may. You can do this. You can do whatever you want, because of whether you may. Anyway, okay. So of course you can do it. You're allowed to. So here Rabbi Yochanan says you're allowed to back out of an agreement. So didn't Rabbi Yochanan say that you're not allowed to back out of an agreement? So this is pushing us to the same type of distinction that Rabbi Yochanan was only talking about certain types of cases where the other side is relying on it. So let's take a look. So the Gemara says, so Amar Papa Umar Rabbi Yochanan b'matanamu etes. Right. So it means that he's saying that it's permissible. So if it's permissible, how does that fit with what we are saying before? So Amar Papa Umoda, and I'd probably take out the vav. No. The difference is if I say I'm going to give you, when I die, I'm going to give you all my estate. Like, okay, whatever. Okay, but if I say, I love you so much, I'm going to go ahead and buy you a car. Fine. But if I actually say I'm going to give you a small gift that you really do believe that it's going to happen and you're trusting me, right? Then that is mechusrei amana. So mechusrei amana is when the other side, the key phrase here is samcha datayu. They really rely on you. Now, the interesting thing is, presumably, as opposed to when I say I'm going to buy the rest of the flats, you're presumably not looking around for other sellers, for other buyers. I'm not looking around for other sellers. Like, I'm giving up opportunities. When I say I'm going to take the job and you're going to say you're going to hire me, I'm not, there's real opportunity loss. That's one degree of samcha datayu. I mean, there you really want Rav to say, at least that it's morally wrong to back out. The case of matana is an interesting, middle case. Like, you might be really trusting me. It's not like I discount it. I really trust you. I'm really hoping for it. But it doesn't mean that I've lost anything. I've given up any opportunity by believing that you were going to give me the gift. Okay, but nevertheless, the fact that I put my trust in you and I really believed it and relied on it, Rabbi Yochanan is saying it would be a violation of that trust to back out, even if the other side isn't losing anything. Okay, so Rav Yochanan says it's a problem when the other side relies on it and trusts in you, even without any opportunity lost. Rav seems to say even with opportunity lost, there is not a problem of violation of trust. Let's just read a little bit more. Okay, Hachinami Mistava, that makes sense. Tamar Rabbi Yavam, Rabbi Yochanan, Yisrael Shamar Leben Levi, Kor Maser Yesh L'cha Biyadi. Yisrael says to a Levi, I've got a measure of maser in my granary, in my threshing floor that I'm going to give you. You're going to be the Levi. I'm going to give the maser to. So Ben Levi Rishayla says trumas meiser mokum acher. So now this Ben Levi can go and he takes his other true meiser that he has in possession and say that amount of maser that Yisrael has in his threshing floor that he promised to give me, that's going to be trumas maser on this that I have. Now that's pretty amazing because he doesn't yet own it, right? So, and the Rishonim don't even discuss that problem. I found an Achron that discusses, and he basically says, since I've promised to give it to you, and we're going to assume that, like Rabbi Yochanan, I'm going to keep my promise and whatever, so you can be confident that you're going to get it. So it's also sort of understood that therefore you, even though now it's still technically mine, that you have the right to separate your maser on the stuff that I.
So therefore, that Levi can now eat everything he's actually got in his house.
Yeah. But if I said that explicitly to you, I said to you, I'm going to let you. I know you don't have a lot of money, whatever. You got. It's always taxes that kill you. So you've got this fruit, but now you're really worried about having to separate myself. I'll do you a favor. Okay, I'm wealthy, whatever. You could just use my fruit to separate your maser. And I'm giving you the right to designate my fruit as maser on your fruit. That would work. Okay, you don't have to own it. You have the right to use my fruit as maser on your fruit. So that's what's understood as sort of happening here. Okay, even before the Levi owns it, but it only works because the Levi can be confident he's going to get it in the end. Because what would happen if he couldn't be confident he's going to get it in the end? Even if I gave him the right to do it, I might then go ahead and give it to someone else. I might have already given it to someone else when he's off in his house thinking that's still in my house and being mafresh. So the only thing that allows him to be mafresh is his ability to be confident that he's going to get it in the end.
Does that mean
and that works.
He gets it and gives it to a Kohen, in other words?
What?
What does it mean, get it in the end?
I have to give it to him and then he'll give it to a Kohen.
Right.
Yes, okay, but that's only because he can only be mafresh if he can be confident that he's going to get it in the end. And that I haven't given and I won't give it to someone else. So let's take a look, okay? If I'm not allowed to go back, that's why he's allowed to assume I'll still be holding on to it and he can use it to be mafresh trumas and meisers, to be mafresh trumas maser. But if I have a right to go back, am I rashai? Why is he allowed to be mafresh? It'll turn out that I gave it to somebody else and he's eating tevel. So you see here, this supports the idea of Rabbi Yochanan against Rav, that you make a verbal commitment and the other side is relying on it and, is trusting you. Therefore, you're not allowed to back out.
And we're now worried there'll be a fire in the meantime.
Well, okay, that's unlikely.
That's something.
Okay, so now how does this work according to Rav? So the Gemara says, all right, according to Rav, we'll have to say the case is I already gave the meiser to the Levi and he gave it back to me. Of course, then, what's the chiddush? Then I'm just being shomer his maser for him. 1 minute. If that's true, look at the second case of here. Nazul ben Levi acher. Let's say I did back out. I wasn't supposed to back out, but I did change my mind and I did give it to a different Levi. Ain't no level of taromas. Then the first guy, he doesn't have any legal claim against me. he can make a complaint. He can say, you, beepity beep, you backed out on your arrangement and I made all these assumptions. And that's a legitimate complaint, but if he doesn't have any legal claim against
What's
it.
the point of
Okay.
Taroma then, if it doesn't have any implications?
I don't know. It means that we as society recognize that I did a wrong thing and that he has a right to be offended and he has a right to object, but nevertheless, it doesn't have a legal claim. Okay,
Right,
anyway,
right,
the
okay.
Isa Gedaitich. Now, first of all, the point is that this is beautiful according to Rabbi Yochanan, right? I have a moral commitment to see it through. He can rely on that moral commitment, but because it's a moral commitment, if I violate it and I do something else, what I did was legally binding when I gave it to the person, and there's no remaining legal claim. But I was morally bound, and at least the Lechatchila was able to rely that I would live up to that moral commitment. But according to Rav, that we're dealing that he took it and he gave it back. So then, why could I go ahead and give it to somebody else? So the Isa Gedaita going to not permit that he took it and then gave it back, that it really belonged to the Levi. Why does he only have a complaint? Since the Levi took it and then he gave it back to me, it's the first Levi's money, and I stole from him when I gave it to somebody else. You see that it's when he didn't take it, Shmamina, that's a good point, which basically means that, according to this whole teaching, now this whole teaching is a teaching in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. It's not a challenge to Rav, okay? This is a Rabbi Yochanan teaching. So you see, though, that this is, again, so I don't know why the Gemara sort of said, I mean, it's just Rabbi Yochanan saying the same thing.
We want to do Matan Mu'etet, Mutar Lachsov.
No.
I mean, they can't.
Yeah, so that's the same thing. It's just an illustration of the position of Rabbi Yochanan we saw earlier. So you see that according to Rabbi Yochanan, when the other side relies on it, you are morally bound by it. The other side is really relying on it because he's being mafi shumas and maisus, but that's not legally binding. And you can go ahead and violate. You're not allowed to, but you can violate that. And then the other side does not have a legal claim; it only has a moral claim against you. So that's Rabbi Yochanan, which I think makes a lot of sense to all of us. Rav's idea that there's not even any moral obligation is pretty hard to understand. Yeah.
So now, Matan Mu'etet, I have two questions on that. Is that at all relative to your wealth?
Yeah, whatever. It seems like it's very contextual.
But, and the other thing is, does that also depend on closeness in our relationship? Let's say, it's a father and a son. The father says, you know what? I know you're going to hurt me all anyway. I'm going to give you I'm going to give you $100,000 now. Then they back out. That's
it sounds like it's all contextual. Okay, let's take a look at the Gemara. Okay, Who gavra? Now a story. A certain man, that he gave money for sesame seeds. L'sov iyakar shum shemi. In the end, the value went up, so the other side wanted to back out. Okay, hadrabu, they backed out. Amru leisan shum shemi. We don't have any sesame seeds to give you. Okay, shkol zuzcha, take your money back. Now they would get a mishapara. Okay, because it was paid for. So they're going to get a mishapara. But we're moving on now to a different question other than the mishapara. We'll see. Lo shakel zuze. He said, no, I'm not taking my money back. You give me the sesame seeds, and he refused to take his money back. Okay. Lo shakel zuze. Ignov. Then the money was stolen from the people, from the sellers of the sesame seeds. Okay. So the question is, what is their relationship to that money? They retracted the sale. They wanted to give him the money back. He refused to take it. Is that money now? Are they a shomer on that money? Are they liable for loss of that money? Okay. So the Gemara says like this: came to Rabbi. Since they said, "Here's your money, take it," below shopless, and you refuse to take it, so lomi bayu shomer sacher delo havilei. Not it goes without saying that they're not a shomer sacher on it. They're not paid people. You're not paying them to watch it, right? Elafilu shomer chinam nami lo have. They're not even a shomer chinam. They, just because you refuse to take your money from their house, like, if I go ahead and I'm your guest for dinner, and maybe that's a little different because then at least temporarily you're watching my money. But anyway, and I leave my coat in and I'm walking out and I say, wait, you're forgetting your coat. And you say, no, I refuse to take my coat. Yuki, I don't want to take your coat, and just walk out. Am I a shomer because you left your coat by me? Okay, so you refuse to take the money. I didn't want your money, so they're saying you're not even a shomer on it. Okay, so
you can't use that coat though, can you?
Right, so they can't use the money. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about that later. So, but they have that money and they don't want it anymore.
So the Gemara says, changed, though. The market changed, right?
Right, the market changed. Yeah, the market changed.
Right.
Right.
He's not making the money after by saying,
No, he's saying you still give me back my sesame seeds. You give me the sesame seeds we agreed on. I don't want to reverse the sale. I don't accept that you want to reverse the sale. I want my sesame seeds.
It's not my
But
fault.
the point
that
is
the
they're
market
entitled to reverse it. It's not like he's giving away his money. He wants them to keep the money so he can get his sesame seeds. But they're saying we're refusing to do that.
because you're going to lose money now.
He just walked out. So that's what we have to figure. So what's now? What are we left with? His money by them that they didn't want to be a shomer on. Okay. So the Gemara says, okay. So no have it. I'm really so you're not liable. I'm really Rabbana Rava. Now the rabbi said to Rava, you see, I'm sorry, when I gave up my overview, it was really a preview. I was thinking so he says 1 minute. He has to accept, they have to accept the Mishapara. Now this is a new concept. I have accepted the money. I have a right to reverse the sale, but I get a Mishapara. So apparently the question is at what stage is the sale reversed? Okay. So when I say I'm reversing it, it sounds like here, since the consequence of reversing is getting a Mishapara, I have to accept the Mishapara, and that therefore reverses the sale. So what does that mean? Does that mean the other side says, well, if you're going to back out, then you're going to get a Mishapara? That's fine. I accept the I like. What's what's the process there?
It's parallel to a shavua. Like if you're really willing to be in position, this is your position. Take the shavua.
I understand.
I don't think a shavua.
Right. I understand.
Right.
I'm just saying, like let's say the other side doesn't know this law. I mean, I guess by the probably everybody must know this law of Mishapara because it probably is a regular thing about backing out. But the question is like, let's say, do you have to demand that I make a Mishapara? Do I have to get up and say, let's say I want to back out, and you don't want me to back out. So if you don't want me to back out, you're not going to demand the Mishapara from me. So so then I mean, like I just don't get exactly what's the stage. Do I have to get up and say I am backing out and accept the Mishapara? Like what's the act that's done?
What's the question? Meaning, as long as there's no
But
Mishapara,
anyway,
the sale isn't
but the
reversed.
Gemara, but one way or another, the Gemara is saying that until the side accepts the Mishapara, the sale is not yet reversed. Okay, and therefore, if the sale isn't reversed, if you gave me money for the sale and I have not reversed it yet, and I lost your money, I don't say, well, like I'm not liable for it. I took that money, and I either have to give it back to you or give you what we agreed upon. So until the sale is reversed, I'm fully liable for that money. Okay, so the Gemara says it's all very nice if they accepted the Mishapara, then they've reversed the sale and the money is the other side's, and he doesn't want to take it back. That's his problem. Okay, but if they haven't accepted the Mishapara, the sale is still valid, and then you have to give either the money or the sesame seeds. Okay, so the Gemara says, so he said to them, okay, enochinami. So meaning, okay, he has to accept the Mishapara. Now, what does that mean? Does it mean that he already accepted it when this happened? Or does it mean he can accept it now? And now that he agrees to it, then retroactively it means that the sale was reversed, right?
They said it came to the court after it happened.
I understand, but when Rav is saying you're right, he has to accept the Mishapara, doesn't mean you're right and he did accept the Mishapara before the money got lost or whatever? Or does it mean that as long as they accept the Mishapara now in court, retroactively the sale was reversed and, and so on. So that's not, there's a new idea here. There needs to be a formal acceptance of a Mishapara to reverse the sale. And the question is it only after it's accepted that the sale is considered reversed, or once it's accepted then retroactively, So it's like, it's not clear.
Isn't it the court that gives the Mishapara? I mean,
not clear. I have no idea. Maybe. I don't know.
How could you have gone back in that order and say, well, where would the Mishapara be?
Because you want to back out,
right.
And then I say, you're not allowed to back out. You're going to get a Mishapara. You're going to be cursed. And you said, but I don't have to say, let God curse you. I think it probably worked more by saying, you'll get a Mishapara. And you'll say, fine, I'll get a Mishapara. Okay? So anyway, okay. Amar Papa. Emily Ravina. So now that's one version of the story, which is very interesting about, this new idea of accepting a Mishapara. Now Ravina said to me, Lididi Amarli, Humer Banan, I personally was told by a certain rabbi, Rav Tuvis Shmei, his name was Rav Tuvis, Amile Rav Shmuel Bar Zutra Shmei, or something, it was a different rabbi. The Halu Yavile, Kol Chalala da Alma, Lo Havikam Mishani B'Dibure. That this rabbi said to me, look, a rabbi came to me and he said, I was the person in this event. I was the person who was the seller of the sesame seeds and the money and the whole thing. And I want to tell you, first of all, that if somebody would give me all of the wealth in the world, I would never go back on a promise and a commitment that I had made. Okay, so that's getting back to the you got the story wrong. I'm going to tell you what the story was, but I was the principal of that story of the guy who was like not giving back, sort of that the question about the other guy's money. And I want to tell you that if he had actually, that I would never have backed down on his
Halal means money.
Yeah, halal, all the everything in the world. Okay, everything in the cavity of the world.
Like Lashon Chulin stuff.
No, whatever. I don't know. Anyway, okay, so he basically says if the story here started that the sellers of the sesame seeds wanted to back out, right? And he says, no. I was that principal, and it was not backing out. I would never back out on anything and any commitment that I had made. Okay, okay. Where were we? This happened to me. I was the principal of this story. And here's what happened. That day, it was right before, it was late Friday afternoon, right before Shabbos. And I was sitting, somebody came and knocked on the door. Amrli, he said to me, hey, do you have some sesame seeds to sell? Here it was, 10 minutes before candle lighting. Amrli, I said to him, whoa, no. So somehow the story got perverted that I sold some sesame seeds and promised and retract. That's not what happened. He asked me if I had sesame seeds. I said no. Amrli, they have one of Susie Bikon. Okay, look, but I got to go home. I got this $10,000. I was looking in the marketplace to buy sesame seeds. It's about to be Shabbos. Can I just leave the money by you? It's going to be Shabbos. Okay? It's getting dark. Amrli, I said to him, look, here's my house. If you, so I just said, my house is here. Okay? I did not agree to be a showman. I said, my house is here. He put it in the house. The Ignov.
So Zvinu means he put it in the house.
He put it in the house. Okay? The Ignov, and then it was stolen. Also, the coming to Rabbi came to Rabbi. Rabbi said, if you say to a person, somebody says, can you be a showman? And you say, look, my house is here. That's all you say. Okay? So I'm not going to prevent you from leaving it in my house. That's essentially what you're saying. So if you say that, I'm not going to stop you. It's Erev Shabbos. I'm not going to stop you from leaving it in my house. So Lomi by Shomer Sachar de Lohave. It goes without saying that you're not a Shomer Sachar. Elafilu Shomer Chinam Nami Lohave. You're even not a Shomer Chinam. Okay. Amrilei Rabbanu L'Rava Yibayle Likibulei Elei Mishapara. 1 minute. But the version of the story that we have is that then the rabbis pushed back on Rava when he said that you're not a Shomer. What about the Mishapara? So according to you, that's not relevant to the whole discussion. It wasn't about that at all. So Amar Lohayad Varmeolam. Yeah, that wasn't true. That wasn't part of that's not a true part of the story either. You guys got the whole story wrong, okay? I don't know, maybe there were two stories that were very similar. Anyway, what's really fascinating besides this issue of when are you a shomer is this idea that A, you have to accept the Nishapara, and B, right, this question about like, and I just want to say a second about this because it's a big debate in the Rif and the Rush and the Gaonim. When I give you money for a sale, this gets back to the question of how do you view it at this stage? I've given you money. Before I give you money and the money gets stolen, okay? It's not that you've retracted yet. Are you a shomer sachar, a shomer chinam on my money? Or do we say, no, actually, since I'm giving you money, there's an assumption we're going to go through with the sale. According to some understandings, the sale is already binding. It could just be reversed. So you actually now own the money and have rights to use it. Okay, and now it's like a halva, it's like a loan. And therefore, if something happens, even an honest happens, it's what we would hope would happen. I paid you the $1,000. You haven't given me the thing yet. Even if an honest happens, you're either going to give me the property that you promised or you're going to give me my $1,000 back, right? So that's what we would tend to assume. That's basically how the Rishonim paskin. That once I give you the money, you're basically a borrower.
Even if it's a down payment.
Not a down payment, but it's the money. I'm not getting to down payment. It's the money as opposed to the Mashiach. So even though the sale is not final, you're considered to own the money, and now you either owe me the money back or you owe me the object. Okay, but in this case, right, the money had not yet been spent. The original money was still there, and the side had reversed it. So in the combination of those two, the money hadn't been spent. The original money was there, and the side had reversed it. Then they said, now that we're reversing it, if we're reversing it and we spent the money, then we just owe you the money. But if we're reversing it and it's the original money, then that money now is fully yours. And you don't want to take it, and we don't want to take it, we're not a shomer on it. And that was sort of that version of that case. Okay, but the bigger question was Dvarim Mishum Chosrei Amana, where again, basically the Rishonim agree that Dvarim Yesh Behem Mishum Chosrei Amana when the other side relies on it or trusts in you. And the question is, what are those circumstances? So let's very quickly read to the Mishnah, okay? Okay, Rabbi Shimon, no, I'm just going to read to the Mishnah. Rabbi Shimon Omer, Rabbi Shimon says the guy who received the money, he has the right to retract. The guy who did not, the seller has the right to retract, not the buyer. So the Gemara says, Tana, I'm Reb Shimon, Amos Leibis, Mancha Kesef Raperes Biad Mocher. When is it that that they can retract if the seller has the money and the fruit? But if the seller has the money and the buyer has the fruit, then you can't retract. So because the money's in his hands. So the Gemara says, Yado, what do you mean in his hands? It sounds like the money's in the hands of the buyer, because Shimon says the guy who has the money can retract. According to here, the whole exchange has already happened. Biad mocheru, the money's in the hands of the seller. No, no. It means that here the sale cannot be reversed because the buyer got the value for his money. He got the object. So this is almost like an obvious statement. It says when the whole sale has gone through, you paid the money and you got the object. Now you can't retract. Pita, obviously. Amarava, Hacham Mayaskina, what are we talking about? No. What we mean that the object is in the possession of the buyer. It doesn't mean it's literally in the possession. It's on the property of the buyer, but he hasn't taken possession of it yet. How could that be? Because the seller is renting a house from the buyer. Okay, so the seller has his fruit in the buyer's house, but the buyer doesn't have possession of it, because since the seller is renting it, it's considered in the sell for this time period in the seller's possession. Okay, so now if that's true, if it's in the buyer's house but the buyer doesn't have possession, why can he not reverse it? The sale shouldn't be final. He didn't take possession yet. Because why did the rabbi say that you have to take possession before and until you take possession it can be reversed? Because we're afraid if you don't take possession, the seller will say, "Hey, your stuff burned, and it was an onus, and I'm sorry, you're out your object." Okay, so the Gemara says, "Hacha here that it's in the buyer's house, even if technically it's rented to the seller." But it's in the buyer's house, so the buyer can do what's necessary to protect the object. Okay, even though the seller is renting the house, even if a fire breaks out by some accident and not controllable, he'll protect it. Okay, one last story. Who's Gavra? The Yav Zuzay Acham. A certain person gave money. Now I got to tell you, whenever I see buying an Acham, I always assume it means wine. But here the Rishonim say Chamur. I don't know how they know whether they're talking about wine or a donkey. What is your English translation? Wine. So some Rishonim say, I mean, normally it's always a wine in this context. A number of Rishonim say Chamur. Anyway, but I'm going to read it wine. Okay, a certain person gave money for wine. The Sof Shemet Kabbai Lemintzbei Lemintzbei Debei Parzik Ruflila. So, and then he heard that they wanted to, how do they translate that? To get married to or to take it? What do they say?
Requisition.
It's to requisition it? Appropriate it? Fine. Okay, anyway. So the house of Parzik was the name of somebody's name, and Rufila is like a government officer or general or whatever. Anyway, he heard that the government wanted to, was going to seize the wine. And they didn't care whose possession it was in. So he paid for the wine. He did not want to take possession of it. He wanted to retract it because the wine was about to be seized. Okay? So, Amrile, Havli Zuzay Lobina Chamra, give me back my money. I don't want the wine. Also came to Rav Chizda. Amalei said to him, "Yeah, we don't pass them like Reb Shimon. Not only can the seller back out, the buyer can also back out as long as even after the money changed hands, as long as he has not taken possession. Now, what should you say though he should get?
Yeah, right.
He should get a mishapara. So here, a number of Rishonim say no, you don't get a mishapara in these cases. In these cases where there is like a serious loss. And you're really just protecting yourself against. It's not just you're changing a deal and it's the normal fluctuations of the market. This type of a case, you don't even get a mishapara. So it's a really interesting continuum, right? When you just arbitrarily back out, you get a mishapara. When there's like a good reason to back out, you don't even get a mishapara. What about if it's normal type of price fluctuation? Is that a good reason? Not a good reason. Do you get a mishapara or not? There's some debate about that. Okay. Let's say though that you didn't even give money. Is it considered a violation of trust to back out? Right, so there's questions about how much does the other side rely on you, but there's also questions about how much do you stand to lose. Are you just arbitrarily changing your mind, right? Or are you, or are you doing it because you're going to suffer a serious loss? So the question about when exactly you get a mishapara And when exactly, like how much are you allowed to protect your own interests and not get a mishapara? When exactly, even according to Rabbi Yochanan, it's considered a violation of trust without a mishapara, in terms of how much does that side rely on you and trust in you, and how much are you protecting your own interests, right? There's a whole range of different factors in terms of that. Okay, but it is interesting that, again, on the one hand, Rabbi Yochanan says that there are definitely cases where there's no mishapara, the cases where there's no violation of trust, the side didn't really rely on you, and then there are cases where those things do get
Like I would think, like from this last case, for example, like I was selling you my field and you